happen to me, and I learned to sit by and watch these, almost like a spectator, watch these things happen to me in my life and go, oh wow, that's kind of amazing. And so it's kind of fun to recall all that and tell it to you tonight. So we went to New York in that summer of 1965 for the Louie Kingsman tour. We got invited to record at Scepter Records. We were on Scepter record label. Who had the Kingsmen on their label, Dionne Warwick, and a bunch of other great artists. In those days, you went to record and songwriters came to pitch you songs. So we would be there goofing around in the studio, and guys like right out of college, Burt Bacharach and Hal David would come to pitch us songs. Nick Ashford and Valerie Simpson would come and pitch a song. We even recorded some of their songs. So we got to meet them way back then. It was kind of amazing. And we started to record at Scepter Studios. I was very influenced growing up by the song Johnny Be Good, Chuck Berry's song, which told the story of a kid who lived in a cabin made of earth and wood, and he carried his guitar in a gunny sack. And then later on, the Beatles copied that, and I was inspired by that song, Paperback Writer, writing about the day in the life of a guy and telling about his, rather than a normal love song, just telling the story of a guy in his life. And I wanted to write a song like that. So our engineer at Scepter Records, and Scepter was owned by a great lady who was an entrepreneur at the time named Florence Greenberg. She owned Scepter Records. She managed the Shirelles. She wrote Soldier Boy for the Shirelles. She owned the label. Underneath her worked Paul Cantor, who managed us, and Dionne Warwick, and it was a really great organization. Her son was our recording engineer. His name was Stanley Greenberg. Stanley was blind. So it was very amazing to me to see this guy twisting the knobs and getting this amazing song on Dionne Warwick's demos and records and on our records. And every day, even in the heat of August in New York, you know what that could be like. It's like 90 and 90. And we're all wearing cutoffs and t-shirts. Stanley would come to work in a white collar, a tweed jacket, a tie, pleated pants, brogues. And I said, Stanley, why do you dress like that? It's so hot. He said, I want to look like the best producer in the world, George Martin. And you know, George Martin produced the Beatles. I said, Stanley, you do look like George Martin, and you look fabulous. Because this was a tweed jacket with the patches and everything, and George, there were many pictures of George Martin like that. So I wanted to write a song, painting a picture of Stanley, and he wore this white collar, button-down shirt every day. So I wrote a song called White Collar Worker. Every day Stanley had to leave the studio at about 10 o'clock at night, just as we're getting going. You see, now it's like 10 o'clock, we're in full tilt. This is like our football game, our 90 minutes of on the field kind of thing. And we'd have to stop playing because Stanley went home. He said, why do you leave? He said, I got to get the train home. He lived outside of New York City. I said, I want to write a song with you. How do you get home? You take a taxi? He said, I can't afford a taxi. I take the train. You take a train? How do you get there? You're blind. He said, oh, come with me. We're walking to Grand Central Station. Wow. So I go up with Stanley, and he says, you count steps. So we go, he counts 800 steps down here, then he turns right, and he's got this cane, and I'm walking beside him, he counts 300 steps, and sure enough, we end up at Grand Central Station. It's amazing. And I'm trying to get fodder for a song, get some ideas, and the streets are deserted. 10 o'clock in the evening, New York, they're deserted. 10:30 when the theaters are out, Madison Square Gardens are out, it's like full of traffic jam, but right now it's kind of empty. So there's nobody there, there's nothing much to write about. So I get up to the station. I say, Stanley, there's not a lot to write here. Maybe I'll meet you in the morning. When do you come in? He said, I take the 8:15 into the city. I said, okay, and when does it get here? He said, it's about 20 minutes, and I walk to work and I start my slaving job to get my pay. Oh. So I go the next morning and I meet him, and he takes the 8:15 in, and there's all these girls who are working in all around Grand Central, all the office divas, and they're all trying to look pretty. So I write this song called White Collar Worker, and it's a copy of Paperback Writer. So I'm going to give you a little bit of it now. They get up in the morning from the alarm clock's morning, take the 8:15 into the city. There's a whistle up above and people pushing, people shoving, and the girls who try to look pretty. And if your train's on time, you can get to work by 9 and start your slaving job to get your pay. If you ever get annoyed, look at me, I'm self-employed, and I love to work at nothing all day. White collar worker, just like Paperback Writer. So I love this song. I played for Burton Cummings. He says, gag me with a drumstick. We'll never ever do that song. We'll get sued by Lennon and McCartney. And yeah, but we'll get to meet them in court. And so the Guess Who passed on that song. It never made it on Wheatfield Soul or the second album, like many years later, or the American Woman album. I started another band after I left BTO, after I left the Guess Who. We're called Brave Belt. They're kind of country rock. It never makes it on those albums. Brave Belt 3 becomes Back into Overdrive 1. We just changed the name on the record label. It doesn't even get on there. Nobody likes that. White collar worker. They'll say your verses are great. The real Johnny B. Good paperback writer verses, but you need a different hook and a different chorus. So driving to a gig one night, early BTO, early 70s, I'm crossing the Lionsgate Bridge to go over to North Vancouver to play a pub. And we've been playing 6 nights a week, 5 50-minute sets a night. This is real rock and roll toil, real, real boiler room kind of work. Saturday night, our buddy Daryl B's on the radio. This is Daryl B on C-Fun Radio, we're taking care of business. And I go, wow, a great song title, what a great title. And so I go to write it down on my songwriting kit, which is in the front of my car. You might have the same kit in your car. It's a smashed crayon on a McDonald's napkin. You gotta write down all your ideas so you forget them. So I write down taking care of business. And somehow I'm taking care of business, taking care of it. And it goes right next to my heart. There's a little shelf with a few of my favorite things. And one of them is the lyrics to White Collar Worker that I've been trying to finish as a song and co-write with myself since 1967, and now it's early 70s. And so we get to the club that night, and Fred Turner says, because he'd been singing, 6 nights a week, 50-minute sets a night, I can't sing anymore. You gotta sing the last set. And I go, what? And I have 10 minutes to put together a set, and I'm not really a lead singer. With a guy like Burton Cummings, I didn't need to sing a lot. I sang the high harmony in no time and things like that you heard me sing tonight. And even in BTO, I just yelled along in the choruses. So now I have to sing the last set on a Saturday night in a rock and roll club. Rock and roll clubs exist for one thing, and that's just sell booze. So they want everybody dancing, they turn up the heat, they give you free peanuts and pretzels, you get salty, you buy more liquid refreshment. I'm in the dressing room, I think, gee, I don't know that many songs. Earlier, I had tried a Bob Dylan song called She Belongs to Me, which was kind of a drag, but I remembered, Bob Dylan couldn't sing that well, neither could I. And Rick Nelson had a pretty good version, so I think I'm going to do the Rick Nelson version of Bob Dylan. So it goes, she's got everything she needs, she's an artist, she don't look bad. That's kind of what happened that night. Nobody danced, they all laughed at the song, so I cut it real short. On the radio at that time was a song by Carlos Santana called Oye Como Va, or Oye Como Va. I have no idea what that means, but it has a big long guitar solo in the middle, which I can play then. And so I think I'm going to do this song. I don't know any Spanish, but neither does anybody in North Vancouver. My mother's Ukrainian, so I'm just going to Winnipeg the song. So I go. Up dancing, and the club owner's going like this, great, right? And he's also going like this, which is like TV talk, where you're on a roll, keep it going, because if you stop playing, they're going to sit down and there'll be that battle to get them up, because once they're up playing and dancing, they start sweating and schwitzing and they start drinking and everything else, right? So my mind is thinking, what are you going to do next? Because you don't know any more songs. And a little light bulb comes on and goes, this is your big chance for White Collar Worker. The band is your hostage. They can't say no. So when I finish Oye Como Va, I turn around and say, these are 3 chords, follow me. And I play the 3 chords. Same lyrics. And as I get to the hook, instead of going, White Collar Worker, I go, taking care of business. Every day, taking care of business. Every way we've been taking care of business. It's all money, taking care of business. Working overtime, work out. And everybody's up dancing, and I play the song for 20 minutes. We finished the night with that song. Every time, and the audience could sense The same thing when I was doing American Woman in Kitchener-Waterloo on stage. They sent this thing happening on stage, this chemical or a sonic reaction from outer space where the angels are sending you a riff after trying to write songs for 10 years and say, oh, we feel sorry for this guy, let's send him something, a good riff. And so the song's coming together, they feel the vibe on stage. So every time we'd stop playing the song, they would stop and keep going. They'd sing, taking care of business. And so like the song just kind of kept going. So we go to record it a couple of weeks later down in Seattle. We lived in Vancouver at the time. And I write out the lyrics and give them to Fred Turner. And he said, why are you giving me these lyrics? And I said, well, you're our lead singer. And he said, I don't want to sing this song. And I don't want you to sing any more songs about pierogies. So let's drop that Oye Como Va song. And you actually sing this song that you wrote on stage. And it'll be a real song. You'll give me a break on stage. You'll be my relief pitcher, so to speak, and you'll sing and I'll have a break where I can breathe and get my voice back. So he asked me to sing that song, Taking Care of Business, so I did. It was the last song sang. I did one take of that song late one night. We're just throwing it on an album. It was just a filler song. And as we're about to go home, there's a knock at the door in the studio. And I open the door, there's a guy there, he's about 6'4", frizzy black hair, frizzy beard, army cap on, army fatigue jacket, and he's holding a couple of pizzas. And I said, yes. And he says, you guys order pizza? And I say, no, try down the hall. Down the hall, Steve Miller was recording this felt like an Eagle album. War was recording the Why Can't We Be Friends album. So he goes down the hall and gets rid of the pizza. He comes back, he knocks on our door again. And we're putting on our jackets. It's now 1 o'clock in the morning. We've been there since 10 o'clock the previous morning. And he knocks on the door and he says, I've been listening to the song through the studio door and it's amazing. He said, thank you very much. I wrote it on stage. I tell him the whole story. And he says, it sounds like it could use a piano. And I go, yeah, I'd like to get Little Richard or Elton John, but they're in LA going crazy right now. And we're going home to bed. We've been here like 14 hours. And he said, I'm a piano player. I don't really just deliver pizza. At the end of the month when I can't pay my rent, I deliver pizza for a couple of days. Will you give me a chance? Give me a shot. And I go, you gotta be kidding. He said, no, please give me a shot. I can nail this song. So I say, okay, normally when you're gonna record a piano, you get a guy in called a piano tuner. He tunes it up. You open up, you put in a couple of mics, you get a great song. I didn't care about this. I was giving the guys a break. We were so tired. I opened the lid, threw a mic and slammed the lid, put a blanket on it and said, okay, you got one chance. He played it all the way through. We didn't even listen to it. We went home. Came back the next morning about 10. As a surprise, Charlie Thatch, the guy who discovered You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet, flew in to hear the album. And I say to the engineer, when you play back the album, and we had buried the song on the second side of BTO2, don't play the piano track because we hadn't heard it yet. I was actually planning on erasing the piano track because this guy was not part of the band. So Charlie hears the song, and halfway through the song, the engineer pushes up the volume control, and in comes the piano. He goes, wow, what's that? BTO, the piano, amazing. Let me hear the whole track. So the engineer backs the song up, plays in the whole track, and he goes, that is exactly what I want from you guys. Elton John owns the radio. If you want a bit of real estate that belongs to Elton John, you put piano in the song, because all you guys are the same. Frampton, Doobie, ZZ Top, then it's going to be all guitars, bass, and drums. Elton John owns about half of radio with the piano playing. So if you have piano, you're going to get some of his airplay. I want to put it on an album. I said, okay. He says, who's playing the piano? And I said, a pizza guy. He said, seriously, no joke, all joking aside, like I've got to get out of town, who's playing the piano? I said, seriously? A guy came here last night, he delivered pizza, he asked to play piano, I gave him his big break, that's the piano player, that's it. He said, wow, this is like a rock and roll legend story. I said, yeah, it has no ending. I don't know. He said, you've got to find out who this guy is. He's got to be in the union, we've got to give him credit, because if it comes on the radio, this is going to be on the radio, believe me. So I go to Steve Miller and say, where'd you get pizza from last night? He said, I have no idea. I go down to War. Where'd you guys get pizza? We have no idea, because you order every night either Chinese or pizza. You're eating in, and that when you go home, a magical fairy comes and cleans up the studio. You come back the next day, because you're in there for like a month at a time. You can't afford time to go to restaurants and stuff. And so none of them knew where the pizza came from. There was no trace of any receipts or any menus. So Charlie gets me a couple of yellow pages, and I take one to the secretary at the front of the studio, and I say, okay, here we are in the yellow pages. You started at Antonio's, I'll start at Mario's, phone them up within about a 2-block radius of the studio, see if they have a pizza delivery guy that looks like Fidel Castro. Because this guy had the army thing and the big beard. So I got lucky in my third call. Yes, we have a guy that kind of looks like that. Great. Could you tell me his name? No, we can't give out employees' names on the phone. Well, would you like to order a pizza? Yes, I'll take yesterday's pizza. Just send this guy. So the guy comes in about 5 after 6. He started work at 6 at night. Comes in 5 after 6. His name was Norman Durkee. That's the piano you hear on Taking Care of Business. The one-take piano pizza guy. That was a good break for him. He was all over the radio. He went on later to become Bette Midler's musical director on our first North American tour. And later, when I played with Ringo Starr's All-Star Band, we ended up our world tour at the Greek Theater in LA, and the pianist for the LA Philharmonic was Norman Durkee. Now I'm going to stand up, and if you want to stand up, we're at the end of the evening and do the real version of TCB. And thank you all for coming and supporting the guide dogs.